Hello, how are you doing? For me, I had a swell week, especially with the positive events happening here in Nigeria. You can be sure I will keep you abreast of these positive events in this letter, beginning with security. I'm glad to inform you that Nigeria has overcome the worst of the Boko Haram insurgency. This is the view of Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari, which he made known while inaugurating the Presidential Committee on Northeast Initiative on Wednesday last week in Abuja, the nation's capital. Mr. President attributed the successes recorded in the war against terror to the patriotic efforts of the armed forces. He said thousands of the persons displaced by the acts of terror had since begun to return to their original communities following the significant degradation of the insurgents. President Buhari reaffirmed his administration's determination to speedily resettle the persons displaced by the insurgency and reconstruct the areas affected by the activities of Boko Haram in the northeastern part of the country. He said the committee will be supported through a fund to be raised by the three tiers of government and through donations from development partners as well as friends of Nigeria. He urged the committee to take immediate steps towards bringing succor to the internally displaced persons. The committee chairman, Lieutenant General Theophilus Danjuma, reminded Nigerians that the task of rebuilding the Northeast region is the collective responsibility of all citizens. The retired Army General acknowledged the contributions from various sources, particularly during the previous fundraising ceremony for the Victim Support Fund for the Northeast. Sadly, Danjuma noted that only half of the pledges made during the fundraising were redeemed. He therefore called on well-meaning individuals and organizations to key into the strategic coordination framework of PCNI. He said the rebuilding of the Northeast will be resource-intensive and could not be done overnight. Danjuma expressed commitment of the committee to effectively deliver on its mandate as the apex coordinating body for all interventions in the region. The committee is expected to operate for 3 years. Like Mr. President, I seize this opportunity to also salute the bravery of our soldiers in degrading the Boko Haram terrorists. We owe the relative peace in the northeastern part of the country to our patriotic and courageous soldiers. The rehabilitation of the Northeast can only be holistic if the terrorists are finally defeated. I therefore urge the Nigerian government and our international allies to empower our soldiers to achieve this daunting task. Aside from the insecurity in the Northeast, President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday last week said he would surely solve the country's perennial electricity problem, fix the Niger Delta security problem, and also improve the infrastructural status before leaving office. He also said that public office holders in Nigeria must be made to be accountable, restating the determination of his administration to restore the country to the good old days of accountability. The president said this at a meeting with the director, Global Upstream of Shell Oil Company at the State House, Abuja. President Buhari, who commended Shell for their faith in the economy and their stay in Nigeria, gave assurances of some issues of concern raised by the company. Mr. President noted that the security of all infrastructure will continue to be prioritized side by side with dialogue with the stakeholder communities in the Niger Delta. He, however, urged all companies to take more responsibility in the protection of oil installations to complement the efforts of the Nigerian Navy in the region. The Shell director, Mr. Andrew Brown, was happy to inform President Buhari of the resumption of oil exportation through the Forcados terminal following its restoration. He called for continued protection by the Nigerian Navy in view of repeated threats of attack by militants. Brown commended the anti-corruption posture of the Buhari administration, as well as the efforts to streamline and stabilize the economy for long-term projects, saying all the efforts will go a long way to reinforce Shell investment plans in Nigeria. Still on oil matters, in a meeting with a Chinese investment company, Norinco, on Tuesday last week, Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibekachukwu, assured the Chinese investment company that the agreement between China and Nigeria has been presented to President Muhammadu Buhari for action. Dr. Kachukwu called on the Chinese company Norinco to fast-track its investment prospects in Nigeria. The minister was referring to the MOU with Nigeria at an investors' roadshow in China in June. The NORINCO team was therefore at the minister's office as a follow-up to the roadshow. To ensure the realization of the agreement, the minister inaugurated a high-powered interministerial implementation committee to spearhead the actualization of the terms of the MOU. To that extent, Dr. Kachukwu requested that NORINCO makes the process of accessing the over $5 billion investment pledge accessible for the Nigerian government. The chairman of NORINCO delegation, Liu Yunjiang, said the visit of his team is to concretize the terms of the MOU with Nigeria. Liu Yunjiang outlined the area of his company's interest to include defense, oil and manufacturing, among others. He promised that NORINCO will fully cooperate with Nigeria and help to develop local companies to contribute to the growth and development of the Nigerian economy. It will interest you that during the show in China, many Chinese companies, including NORINCO, made a pledge of about $80 billion investments to the Nigerian economy, especially in the oil and gas industry. The MOU covered new investments spanning 5 years in the oil and gas industry on pipelines, refineries, gas and power, facility refurbishments, and upstream financing. Kachukwu led a powerful team of the top management and key stakeholders of the NNPC to the NNPC China Investors Roadshow 2016 held in China. The forum commenced on June 26 and was attended by the managing directors of major oil giants in China like Sinopec Group, Sinopec Adax, Senda Securities Limited, and Jere Group. In order to fast-track the revamping of our economy, direct foreign investment of this magnitude is deeply appreciated, coming from an age-long ally like China. We hope that the implementation of the MOU will begin soon, while calling on other international investors to invest in Nigeria as the biggest economy in Africa. Meanwhile, Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Okechukwu, has promised that results of the efforts by the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration will surprise Nigerians in 2017. The minister, who was in Abeokuta, Ogun State capital in southwest Nigeria, expressed this view at the 8th session of the National Council on Industry, Trade and Investment. The minister noted that based on resource constraints and low price of commodities, including oil, it is an urgent necessity to partner with the private sector so as to leverage and catalyze resources and development capital. According to him, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the establishment of the Presidential Council on Ease of Doing Business to ensure that investors willing to invest in our economy can do so without constraints. Already, we are seeing results of these efforts at the Corporate Affairs Commission (CAC) with the 24-hour online registration of businesses. Nigerians believe that the government has the capacity to lead us out of the economic recession. The business climate in the country is getting clearer, especially with the desire of the government to diversify the economy and rely less on petroleum. Still on the economy, Nigeria's former capital and commercial nerve center, Lagos State in southwest Nigeria, has emerged as the 5th largest economy in Africa. Consequently, the state governor, Akinwumi disclosed that his administration is in the process of setting up an economic management team comprising distinguished individuals from the private and public sectors to manage and improve the feat. Ambode stated this on Tuesday last week when he received a delegation from the Nigerian British Chamber of Commerce on courtesy visit, disclosing that the emergence of Lagos as Africa's 5th largest economy was very instructive. He promised that his government would explore synergy with the private sector with a view to catapult the state into a true global city-state in the true sense of the word. The governor explained that his decision to come up with the Office of Overseas Affairs and Investments, otherwise known as Lagos Global, was part of efforts at encouraging investment in Lagos, both from within and outside. The governor said the realization that the economy is in the hands of the private sector informed the willingness of the state government to formulate policies and decisions that will make the private sector thrive in the state. Ambode revealed that this is why Lagos has been run on a tripod of security, job opportunities, and infrastructure development. Explaining the tripod, Ambode said his administration believed that when the people and investors are well secured, businesses will thrive and more people will be employed, while the resources generated in terms of internally generated revenue will be deployed to providing infrastructure for the people. Gladly, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, had, in its Economic Outlook report for October, projected Nigeria as the biggest economy in Africa, ahead of South Africa and Egypt. Evidently, Nigeria is moving out of recession, and it gladdens me that we have learned a hard lesson from what we have gone through. It's my belief that we would not allow such mistakes to happen to us again. As we revive the economy, food security must be given attention because what we eat affects our health. That's why our Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Chief Audu Ogbe, has called on Nigerians to make conscious efforts at eating well always. The minister made this passionate plea on Monday last week when he received a delegation led by the Chief Medical Director of the University College, Ibadan, in Oyo State, southwest Nigeria, and the country manager of Harvest Plus, also based in Ibadan. The minister noted that Nigerians must be conscious of what we eat, as most of our food contains too much carbohydrate, adding that eating well is not the same as eating much. The minister said this is imperative because if we feed better, we would be healthier and immune to common illnesses. The country manager of Harvest Plus, Dr. Paul Ilona, called for a new or complementary strategy to address the challenge of feeding hunger in Nigeria. According to him, this is due to the revelation from a study conducted in 2013, which indicated that there was only 13% compliance of vitamin A in Nigerian foods. He revealed that for our food to be more nutritious, there is need to work along the value chain and ensure extra nutrients in Nigerian crops. He informed that his agency is assisting over 1 million Nigerian farmers to grow vitamin A cassava and beans, adding that through the efforts of his organization, about 25 products now contain vitamin A in Nigeria. He appealed for continuous support of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to enable his organization reach out to more farmers in Nigeria, and pledged that Harvest Plus will continue to work with other relevant stakeholders, especially the youth, to ensure that Nigerians go for more nutritious foods. Do I say that it's on that nutritious note that we end my letter this week? Till next week, goodbye.